Welcome to Moments That Matter, a podcast that looks at the moments in our lives that come along from time to time that have consequences long after the moment, especially those moments that have to do with the choice of vocation. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, Listening for the Voice of Vocation, Parker Palmer speaks of a clearness committee in the Quaker tradition, wherein a group of older, wiser people ask questions of someone considering a life choice, as a way of clarifying the next step. We may not meet with a committee about these big decisions, but we all have these critical junctures in our lives which we can think of as clearness committee moments. We need to pay attention to these moments because they are profound and potentially life-altering. We will relay stories from our lives and interview others about theirs, especially noting the clearness committee moments, those we chose to recognize and those that were sadly ignored, those decisions that were made with God in mind and those that were not. Our hope is that these podcasts will cause you to think of the same kind of moments in your life with new clarity.
Continuing to talk about like how you got started, another thing that I was super impressed with, and I think this maybe came more from Austin's business side, but is that you guys really kind of set markers for yourself, before you ever really went out on the road and said, if this happens, then we would consider ourselves successful and we will continue doing these kinds of things. And for somebody just simply interested in, going into business for themselves, whether or not it's music, I'm interested kind of how those markers were set and, what those goals look like. And because it's much more practical than some people would think of musicians, just like, hey, let's just make music, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or play any show that's offered for free.
That is,
or
this
any
is
brewery.
One of the biggest things that we counsel other people, or when they ask us, is that you have to really look at this in a very pragmatic way and not get too wrapped up in the artistic. I just want my music to speak for itself. You really have to put in the.
Yeah, we are in a community of musicians that they're like, how are you guys not playing for $100 everywhere? And it's like a big part of that is realizing that in order for your art to be heard or to be shared, you have to have the business savviness, or else you'll just be playing for 3 people at a listening room your whole life.
So to answer your question specifically about markers and how we set that up, we really wanted to at first when we started doing this, we were going to sell our house and we had it on the market and we thought that's what we had to do. Well, then we were more successful financially than we thought we were going to be. So we kept our house. And so it no longer became okay, let's just be able to feed ourselves and put gas in the car. It was okay, we can pay our mortgage. Okay, let's try to replace our, my teaching income and a portion of Austin's financial planning income. And we just we saw the progress, and then we just I would say we scaled it as we continued. But the real marker for us came when we were able to, and this was 6 months in, when we were able to start tracking ticket sales and say okay, we know we can bring 70 people out here and we know we can bring 600 people out here, and being able to track that and keep it in our spreadsheets and figure out, okay, how much merch are we making per person at a concert, all these things. That has been tremendous. And I would say
we have a lot of spreadsheets that I've created. But I think the goals we set, there was a lot more than just financial too. We had a business plan where we had for anyone that's starting a business, I think it's important, a media plan, marketing plan, and then your product as well has to be really solid. But almost every musician I've ever met's product is good. That's a given. You have to be good at playing music, but there's so many people that do that. So we just sort of worked back from there and said, okay, let's put the product on the side. That we have to have that. But then we just said, okay, what do we need to make this a viable career? And we used real numbers, and we shared those numbers with people, including people that were booking shows. Look, if you want us to play, in order for us to keep being a musician, we have to make, let's say, $50,000 a year, which means if we play 100 shows a year, this is how much we need to make at this show. Can you hire us or not? And Sarah also was really good about, one of the big goals was that we'd always pick up the phone and call people and treat it like a sales job. I mean, if selling used cars is hard, selling a band no one's heard of is like 10 times harder, right? So you have to be, people give like used car salesmen a bad rep. You don't want to sell, luckily we're selling something that we really believe is good. And I assume you guys agree. I haven't heard our music, but like you have to be just as driven to sell your music that you would if you were in a commission only, the hardest sales job. And I think the reason a lot of musicians fail is because, or a lot of business owners fail, is because they're so good at the product, but they're not good at that part. Yeah. And even if you're not good at it, you just have to do it.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say that I think this would apply to any business owner or any, startup entrepreneur is like not to wait for the perfect time to like quit your day job to do this, because it's never going to come. You just kind of have to like jump in and do it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to figure this out so I can like pay my mortgage or pay my car, whatever, eat. And I think if we had like been like, okay, because at first I was like, well, maybe I'll just get like a part-time job. Austin can like work at a hardware store. Like we'll just do this part. Store. I don't know. I just made that up. But like
it must be the mustache.
Yeah, he can be a lumberjack. But like, I think that would have been like a real handicap, and we would have like, those would have been like training wheels for somebody that didn't really need them. So I would just say like, take the plunge.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's so good. I so love you guys. I mean,
I
grew up listening to bluegrass music. Actually, I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up outside of.
Oh, cool.
And went to bluegrass festivals all my life. When I was a kid,
awesome.
My dad was a big bluegrass fan, and so I kind of grew up on that side. Who would you say maybe is some inspirational people, musicians or groups that you guys look to?
Yeah. Probably our collective favorite is Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings.
Yeah.
We really love Gillian Welch a lot, and I really admire her songwriting, and also like from a business standpoint, the longevity of their career, and also how they've made it work as a duo with like the most cheap microphones on the planet and like the simplest setup. They've been able to do that for like 25 years. So we really admire them musically and like from a business standpoint. And we also really love local musicians and friends, Mandolin Orange. We really admire their duo and their music as well. Who else would you say that you
I mean, I definitely think just like individually, Sarah, definitely like her banjo playing. I know you listen to like a lot of Ola Bell Reed, which is like an old time banjo player. And for my guitar playing, I really listen to a lot of Norman Blake and Tony Rice and Doc Watson and those types of people. Not that I can play anything like them. But yeah, I think on the songwriting side, definitely Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings. And Spotify has really like opened my mind. Like you can find so many new artists all the time, and even local ones you didn't know about. Like I've been on a kick listening to this guy called the Dead Tongues, and he's amazing. And
he's from Asheville.
And so I don't know. I would say my inspiration changes like every day with new people.
I recall that about you, actually.
That's such an Austin thing. Like
there have been moments in my life, and you know where I'm going with this, Mr. Shotton. There have been moments in my life that have changed me musically.
Yeah.
And I can pinpoint some of those. The first time we saw Dave Rawlings and Gillian Welch, I remember thinking, whoa, like this was the most simple music I'd ever heard, and it just hit me right where it should hit you. But another one of those moments was when I was younger, and you guys were here for the summer like you were every year, and we went to go see that John Mayer concert at the movie theater.
Where the Light Is.
Where the Light Is. If anybody out there is listening to this, I don't care if you play music or not. If you are into music, it is worth a watch. It really changed. I remember it changed my whole perspective on guitar playing and what was possible. And I remember we did not, me, I talk a lot. We didn't say a word during the whole thing. And probably not even when we got on the car for like the first 15 minutes.
our mouths were open the entire time.
That's so cool.
That was a moment that mattered to me.
And my recollection is that you took that as a personal challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
And you really started playing his stuff. I mean, like his hard stuff. And and it was just like, okay, you're way past me now, you know. And so that to me was like kind of a springboard in some ways. You know?
It was.
That is so, like, the way you're describing what Austin did, that is like that is a touchstone Austin moment right there.
Yeah, I know. I do. I listen to some people and I'm like, if I could just learn a ounce of that, it would take me to the next level. And I remember thinking that when we watched that. So John Mayer, even though he is such a different artist than we are now, that moment really influenced me a lot. And I still really enjoy his music as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are all kinds of Clearness Committee moments, right?
Yes, that was a big one. And a lot of those moments just happen so randomly too. I think, you know, Carl was just like, hey, I think we're going to this. You want to go? I was like, I guess so.
Yeah.
So inquiring minds want to know, Chatham Rabbits, how did you come up with a name?
It's pretty funny. So we live in Chatham County, and when we moved here to Chatham County right after we got married, we moved to the mill community of Bynum, North Carolina, and we were like just kind of, you know, I was getting out of my like emo, I'm not going to play music again phase, and Austin was ready to go and play old time music. So we did kind of dip our toes in, and we needed a name for what we were going to call ourselves.
We were playing for free burritos all over town.
Yeah, we played for free food like constantly, and that was really fun. It was great practice. But we asked our neighbors, like, what should we call ourselves? Because we wanted to do something like, you know, about our new, like where we were living in our new home, and people were just like Chatham Rabbits, Bynum Bunnies, like.
We did not go with Bynum Bunnies.
No, like, but people just kept saying this rabbit thing, and we did not understand it. So we were like, okay, what's this about? We Googled it and asked some people, and we found out that in Bynum, back in the early 1900s, there was a string band and a baseball team and a couple other like group organizations sponsored by the Mill Corporation, and they were all called the Chatham Rabbits string band, or Chatham Rabbits. You know, there was like a women's basketball team, but they were all created in the early 20th century to boost the morale of basically indentured servants that worked in the mills. And we thought that was really cool. And then we were like, but why is this like rabbit thing a thing? And it turns out that Chatham County used to be the meat rabbit capital of the USA. So
there was rabbit farmers all over the county, and there was a really strong wild rabbit population. And actually where we live in Siler City, there's a crossroads where there's still a train that will come through every now and then. And it's called Rabbits Crossing. And it used to be where they would load all of the meat rabbits, like that were cleaned and packaged. And they would ice them down and ship them to all like the real fancy restaurants in New York and stuff.
So there's actually, if you Google Chatham Rabbits, it comes up like there's recipes for Chatham Rabbit.
We're still fighting with Google to get it at the top.
We really want to be at the top thing, but it's still like an allrecipes.com listing. And then the last thing I'll say about this is the other really cool piece is once we decided we were going to be Chatham Rabbits, we found out that the original guitar player for the Chatham Rabbit string band back in like 1910, he was the first person that lived in the house and had lived there for like 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
So
it
we
was
were like,
fate.
okay, we have to be Chatham
Bynum
Rabbits.
Bunnies.
Yeah.
Yep. So, well, you mentioned the second album, so we can talk about that. So obviously it's a very different process. In putting the album together and recording it also, as I understand, is kind of a unique setting for the recording. And so can you talk about kind of, I guess, the transition from the first album to the second album?
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah, I think the first album we recorded track by track. So I would sit in the studio, play a guitar part, then sing over that. And then Sarah would come in and then play her banjo part and then sing that. And so on and so forth. And we had a full band. So it took almost a year and a half to complete. And it was very much like a puzzle. And, puzzles can be beautiful, I mean, it was a really nice, I'm really glad that we did it that way. It was a great experience. But The second album we recorded completely differently. We had been playing with a band that was really tight, and so we had these other musicians, and we thought, you know what, instead of recording at this fancy studio and doing it all formal and track by track, let's rent a lake house, hire a cook. Okay, that was key.
That was fun.
Rent a lake house, have our whole production team come up, hire a cook, have a recording engineer that has a mobile rig, and let's set up a mobile studio in a lake house in Michigan or Virginia. Sorry. So we went to Smith Mountain Lake, and gosh, it was beautiful there. It was this house with really high ceilings, and we had looked at a lot of different places to find one that was really acoustically pleasing and had enough rooms that you could have isolation. Like there was where the producer and the sound engineer set was completely soundproof and isolated from where the band was. But we recorded it all live. So we would play the song through. We all were individually mic'd and everything. You'd play the song through like 5 to 8 times. Okay. By like the 7th or 8th time, you kind of break down as a musician and you're like, I can't even hear myself singing it anymore. But that's when the producer, you'd hear him on your headphones and he'd be like, all right, we just started. That last take was close. And you're like, oh my gosh, if I have to play this song one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. And then we'd play it again, and I'm like, I can't play it any better than I just played it. We'd be like, all right, give me one more, and then we'll have it. So that's kind of how we did it. It was like it broke us down musically to our just most pure, raw point to where we didn't care about the notes that we're playing. And that is where the magic happens, I think. Yeah. And so it was less like a puzzle that came together and made a picture, and more like just a painted picture right there. All of us doing our own part.
That's a good analogy. It was really fun.
It was. So, and we goofed off the whole time. Like I said, we had a cook that was cooking for us, and we just played ping pong and drank coffee and, ate good food and just played music with a bunch of people.
Yeah, we stayed up till like 2 a.m. every night, and like we played this game with all the guys. It was me and 9 other guys, and we all played this game called Rock, Paper, Scissors, Insecurity. So we were, whoever lost the game had to say something to the group they were insecure about. And so we got it was team bonding really fast.
Hate that kind of stuff, by the way. So
it was hilarious. It was so funny. So it was a great experience, and we're really thrilled with how that recording process comes through in the album that we're releasing on May 1st. And
it's a little more raw, and I think for bluegrass music or roots music, that rawness is the whole beauty of the song.
It's just so fun.
There's improvisation in every song. And I mean, yes, it gets captured, but a mandolin part or a banjo part or a guitar part, it was rehearsed in the sense we just played it over and over again, but it wasn't something that we chose. It's either the whole song works or it doesn't,
Yeah.
So.
Is there going to be an album release tour?
Yes. So we're going to go on tour with this album. The album's called The Yoke is Easy, The Burden is Full. It's a line from our song called Oxen. And we are going on tour with the album. And the first stop is May 1st, which is the big release of the album. And that show is at the Carolina Theater of Durham. And then we'll follow that up with a show in Wilmington and a show in Asheville, and then a tour all across the Southeast and Midwest, and then out west this fall, where we'll be headed out to Colorado and Kansas and Oklahoma. So
that's
lots of fun stuff.
Our website has all those details for anybody that's interested. Yeah.
ChathamRabbits.com/tour.
Okay. ChathamRabbits.com.
Right.
And so the major themes of the album, what kind of songs can we expect?
Yeah.
I think it's really a collection of stories about relationships or people's relationships. There's one song on there about a father and a son and the relationship they had during the Vietnam War when the son was drafted. There's the title track of the album, Oxen, is a song I wrote for my sister's wedding. And it's just about how important community is. And that song is really the overarching theme of the album. And then within the album, you have hardships that relationships are going through. Maybe it's a a mother and son, or a father and son, or a husband and wife. And I just think it's just a collection of stories about how relationships are hard, but so necessary.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean if you get strong community that hard times aren't going to come, but it definitely means that those hard times are a lot easier to go through.
Yeah, I just finished writing the liner notes for the album, and I came across this quote from Maya Angelou where she was talking about being really confident in your friendships and in yourself. And she says, the price is high and the reward is great. And that is kind of the theme. And that's also, the yoke is easy, the burden is full. So that's just kind of the theme. Like, it's when you have friends or relationships, or you love anybody, like, you are going to get hurt, or you are going to be sad, but it's so much better than not loving anybody at all. So that's the theme.
So what are you most excited about as you look to the future?
Traveling.
Yeah, I have a dream to play at the Ryman in Nashville.
Okay,
so I dream really big. Sarah always gets on me. She's
I'm like, let's just get through the next 3 months.
Yeah,
right?
We're gonna play the Ryman within the next 3 years. It is. If we're not headlining, we're gonna open for somebody. That's my claim. I claim that.
I believe.
Yes. But honestly, if we can sell out the Carolina Theater Show, that would be a huge step forward. It's 1,100 capacity. And our last album release was at Cat's Cradle, and that was 650, and we did sell that out, and that propelled us. Promoters and people that hire us for shows, they want to know the numbers as much as they want to know the music. So that would be something that we're really looking forward to. And then just continuing to build a really, really healthy, viable business, and employing really great people to play with us, or to run sound for us, and to manage us, all that kind of thing. I think one thing I should add, just as an overarching statement for anybody out there that wants to start a business or is thinking about taking a leap of faith: surround yourself with people that do your job way better than you do. I mean, we write the songs, and that's cool, but our musicians are way more talented than we are, and we can just say, look, I have this song idea, I have this idea, and they can take it and make it 3 times better than we ever thought possible. And I think whatever field you're in, that's something that you've just got to do, is just surround yourself with better, more
just get used
people.
to it, that people might be better than you, and just go with it. And it's been such a gift to get to employ people and like helps others sustain a creative freelance lifestyle.
How about for people following you? You gave the website. What's the best place for people to follow you social media wise?
Great question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, so our website's chathamrabbits.com, but the best place to find us is on our Instagram, and it's Chatham_rabbits.
Excellent. Very good. And I wish for people who were just listening to this, Austin, your mustache on a scale of 1 to 10 is probably an 11 today.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you just made my day.
So just fun fact, he is like, I made him shave it off for a photo shoot. He's growing it back, and like, this is the past couple weeks, he's been filling it in with my eyeliner pencil.
I didn't do it today though.
But he didn't have to do it today because it is like back and very robust.
Yeah, it's finally back. The transition stage from growing a mustache out after you shaved it is rough. Okay?
People don't understand what is involved with that. The agony of shaving what you've invested in.
It is emotional.
You guys can really bond over this.
I can tell you could have a sick mustache if you wanted to.
I really appreciate that. I feel like we're having a moment right now. We're kindred spirits.
You need to go for it. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. It's an investment. It's like weeks and weeks, and
all the hairs that are right underneath your nose have to grow the same length as every other hair.
Absolutely.
That takes
time. Yeah.
Mr. Schatzberger, is this more than you bargained for?
Podcast. That's what we'll do. Yeah, moments that matter with
mustaches.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great.
Well, we are so grateful for your time.
Absolutely. This is fun to chat with you guys.
Sorry if we rambled a little bit, but that's how we are.
And I could see this happening again, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Down the road a little bit, maybe after the Ryman,
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally.
Absolutely. You can contact our Rolling Stone contact.
People like us.
Yeah, we are so happy we got to do this. This is really fun. And I love talking about Quaker and business and music all in one podcast. So that's great.
Yeah. We look forward to listening to future podcasts that you guys do as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's Moments That Matter
Moments
for
that
today.
Join us next time. Thanks so much, guys.